Okay, this video is sort of like the videos on needles and yarns and abbreviation that I did in the very beginning stages of making these videos. If you want to see any of those videos, just go to the videos tab and scroll down, and all the videos have titles to them in the captions. So they're back at the very beginning: how to do a slip knot, how to know what yarn to buy, how to know how to read needles and what needles to buy. They're all at the very beginning of the videos. Pull down tab if you're interested in any of those. This video is kind of like that. I have an opportunity now to show it to you, so I'm going to do that. Nobody really asked about this yet, but I know it'll come up somewhere down the road, and it's something that you need to know if you're going to do a project that has an applique, or if you're interested in putting appliques on. So applique is anytime you have a crocheted piece going on another piece. So again, we're back to the custard pie. I'm putting a little daub of whipped cream in the center, or meringue, whichever one you want to call it. But it's going into the center of the pie like that. Now I have to sew this on. How do we do that? How do we put something on that's like a 3D applique? Well, we're going to sew it on. And it's just that simple. But I want to show you what we use to do that. So this is the sewing needle that we use. And it's a sewing needle. It's a legit sewing needle with an eye that gets threaded, but it is, big. It's very blunt on the end. There's it next to my first finger, if you can see that. So it's a big sewing needle. Very blunt on the end, so you can't stab yourself. Threads really easily. The eye takes the yarn very easily because the eye itself is so big. You don't have to try to thread it as hard as you do with a sewing needle. Some of them are really tiny, but that's what it looks like. That is a sewing needle made to applique yarn. You can buy it at any craft store in the needle section. You can probably buy it in the sewing section too with those needles as well. But super easy to find. They're not that expensive, but this is the best way to applique when you're doing crochet pieces or knit pieces and you're trying to put something 3D on another thing. Sometimes baby blankets. I've done letters. I've done flowers. I've done flowers on sweaters, just different things, little hearts on scarves. So that's what you're looking for when you're trying to find the needle. When you're doing it, you want to make sure it doesn't show. So this is going to be easy because I have it backed by another pot holder. So when I go to sew this onto the yellow, all I have to do is make sure that I don't cross over back into the brown pot holder. And so everything gets hidden kind of inside between the two pot holders that I've made. So this is going to be easier than if I was doing it on a flat blanket. If you're doing it on a flat blanket, you want to stay to the front of the stitches. So when you're appliquing, I'm going to show you in this area so you can see it easier. But when you're appliquing on, if I was to applique, I'm going to make a stitch through this white, and I'm appliquing onto the yellow underneath. So if I didn't have the brown behind it, and I'm going through the white, I'm going to try to stay in the front of these stitches right here, and just pick up only the threads that are in the front of the stitch. That way when I sew it, you wouldn't be able to see it on the back of the yellow pot holder. On this, it doesn't really matter if I stay to the front because, like I said, you're not going to see it through the second pot holder on the back. But if you are stitching on a blanket or something and you don't want to see it, you're going to just stay to the pieces of thread that are on the front of those stitches. You just pull that tight and it lays right down. Then come up through another piece of the I guess this is whipped cream. We'll call it whipped cream for now. I don't know if you put meringue on your lemon pies, but we'll call it whipped cream for now. And then you're just going to go back down, and again back through some of those yellow stitches and back up. You're basically doing the same thing you would in needlepoint or in sewing, and you're just appliquing that on. And you can make it as many stitches as you need if you want it really, really fat. If you just want to put stitches around here and then like the edges would be kind of up in 3D, it really doesn't matter how you applique. There's no set way to do it. except for just trying to hide your threads and make sure that it doesn't come through on the back. And then like right there, I went from here to here, but I don't want to show it in there in the middle. So just trying to hide your thread is the biggest part, but always make sure that you're just picking up a little bit of that yellow and not going all the way through. And eventually you'll just get all the way around. Now finishing off is pretty easy, but I'll show you once I get over here and actually have it all on my pie. So there's the little custard daub there. I need to do one more little stitch here to get this last little piece on. And once I do that, I'm ready to tie off. Now again, it's going to be easier on something like this where you're not going to have this edging show, but still not hard. I'm going to come to a spot where I know I can work my thread in. If I'm working on the back of this, I just want to make sure I work it into, again, a spot that's not going to show, only pick up those beading threads. But here, I'm using white. I'm not going to go all the way through since it's a double pot holder, so I'm going to stay to the top side. And I'm just going to pick a random thread to go under. And just like in sewing, I'm going to pull to where there's a little hoop. And then take my needle back through the hoop and pull it all the way down so that it makes that knot. I like to do it twice. So I'm going to go back in that same spot, go all the way down until there's a little hoop, take my needle back through it, and then just pull it really taut. Then I can cut off my end and take my crochet needle, and just like when I weave in my ends, I'm just going to thread my needle up through there to where I can get that end, and then I'm just going to weave it and work it back in to where it hides itself into my project and can't be seen. So there we go. Now the custard pie holder is finished. There's my little pie with my pie crust and my little daub of whipped cream in the middle, and pot holder ready to use in the oven, and all completed. So there you go. That's how you sew on a little applique. It'll stay. It's not going to go anywhere. And super cute. So you can do letters, flowers, hearts, anything on a scarf or whatever you're trying to applique on, and that way you'll know how to sew those on, what needle to buy to sew it on, and then working in your ends and finishing it through. So I hope you have fun with that. If you applique anything or make something on a blanket or a scarf, maybe the baby's name across the bottom of it, or maybe just the first letter on the corner, let us know, send us pictures, and show us what you made. I hope you enjoy this video, and happy crocheting.